Welcome everyone back to another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son George. I was my mother's caregiver after she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Sadly, she passed on 1/1/2020, so we started Together for Sharon.com in her memory and to advocate today for a cure for all those still battling PD and their families because no one is ever alone in this fight for a cure. Today's guests are individuals that mean a lot to me, and I think they know that, but to many also of you out there. They've done some incredible advocacy and a movie called Run4Ben, which I've watched, and we're going to share a little of today. I want to welcome both of the incredible gentlemen to the show and just tell you how really I admire both of you and all the work you do. And my dream and goal today is obviously to find a cure for Parkinson, but until then, we fight. And now, unfortunately, as you'll mention, in memory of all of our loved ones who we've lost due to this disease, but for all those still battling today, we have to keep fighting. And I think and feel strongly that together our voices are so much stronger. So welcome everyone to the show.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good to be here.
I don't know how we can start out, but if both of you wanted to join in, or I'll probably rotate questions later, but maybe you could tell us a little bit, about yourselves and how you entered the world of awareness. I know a lot about it, but maybe our listeners don't, and that's really what we're here for today.
Sure. I'll get started. My name is Jamen Spitzer. My dad is Ben Spitzer. My dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's back in 2012, 2014, somewhere around there. And just recently passed at the age of 65. He passed July 20th of 2024. I, along with Mike, who is on here as well, started a documentary back in 2020 that we're still working on. And that follows my running of marathons, the Detroit Marathon, for my dad. And then eventually in 2023, I actually ran with my dad. So we're, kind of talking about what it is to deal with Parkinson's as a person who was diagnosed, as well as the family and what the caregivers all kind of go through. So I think shedding some light on just the whole process and what goes on, not just the little blips that we might see out there, but actually showcasing that through, multiple years of going through Parkinson's caregiving and diagnosis is what we're hoping to do. And that way we can connect, and hopefully people who, are diagnosed with this, or families and friends who know someone like this don't feel so alone. And that's the whole mission that we have. And we've partnered up with Kirk Gibson Foundation. That's who we ran the marathons for. So I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that, but I'll pass it over to the director, Mike Piccorillo.
Thanks, Jamin. Yeah, I am a filmmaker and I've worked in the film industry as a crew person over the last 25 years or so. And my actually exposure to Parkinson's is actually through Jamin. I really didn't have anyone in my family, who had Parkinson's. So I was kind of outside looking in. And that said, being a part of this documentary for the last 4 years has been incredible, and really opened my eyes. And I've learned so much about Parkinson's and the specific things with Ben, James' father. It's been quite a journey, and it's been really just humbling and incredible. And we're, as James said, we're still, knocking away at it. And it's been 4 years in the making, and we're getting there. The light's at the end of the tunnel, so we're looking forward to getting it out to the masses.
I'm looking forward to too, Jamin. I want to send our love and support to you and the whole family. Sadly, while you're talking, I don't need question because it kind of mirrors a lot of the things that our family went through. The only difference is I can't run a marathon, but the awareness you do is just amazing. And I saw the news that your father passed and was also heartbroken for him and for the whole family. But today, I think we're going to dedicate in his memory. So this will live on along with him as long as I'm around forever. and until we find a cure. So again, thank you. And thank you, Mike, too, for all you do. We're actually looking into the documentary, which is not easy, as you know better than anyone. And I think these are important because there's not enough out there on the topic of Parkinson's awareness, but also some of the tougher times. You know, the last year of my mother's life, I wrote a book, but I documented just the last year of her life, timestamp and date, what we went through being a caregiver and as a person diagnosed. And took video and pictures, but never shared any of it. I decided to put a book out only because I can't believe it, and you might not be aware, but I haven't seen. And I always challenge the audience, write me and yell at me if you want. I don't mind, but I've never seen a book in the world with a son who lost their mother due to Parkinson's, which was shocking. So that's why I did it. But I still to this day haven't released the video or pictures because, you know, if you see up close what Parkinson's really does to your loved one, it's shocking and horrifying. So we might add some of that because you need to unfortunately shock those people who have no clue what everyone's going through. So again, I'm really excited for the beautiful work that you're both doing. I wanted to also talk a little bit about first, you know, about your backgrounds. Obviously, you mentioned a little bit, but what was your interest in, Mike, in covering, you know, Parkinson's disease? Because one question for James and I also had is, you know, how do we reach more individuals? I love this Parkinson's community. We have 1 million or more, I believe a lot more though, in the US and 10 million globally, which I hope your movie will also reach globally. But I always am curious, how do we reach the people who aren't affected and the people who are not caregivers of Parkinson's? So I'm just curious on both of your thoughts on those topics.
I'll start. Thank you, by the way, for the kind words. And that is part of what Run4Ben is about. Is our story. You know, there's this main story of Jamin running in marathons and being with his dad and raising money and awareness for Parkinson's. There's also we get into with his mom, who is a caregiver for Ben, and many of the challenges that she has faced over, you know, her time experiencing that. And actually, we're just interviewing her today and talking about that stuff, and it's profound. And the thing is before the documentary, I really had very little awareness of Parkinson's, just out of sight, out of mind. And then over COVID, Jamin and I were both kind of looking to do something creative just to kind of get through the pandemic. And Jamin had mentioned his desire to run in a marathon, to raise money for Parkinson's. And we kind of like, hey, let's do like a little documentary video, a little small thing, you know, no big deal. It'll keep us busy, it'll keep us creative, it'll get some outreach, you know, all good things. That was 4 years ago, and we just kind of kept going, and it's kind of grown and grown and grown and expanded. And we kind of have a loftier goal now, as we have more than enough to make a legitimate feature. So that's kind of where we are at now. And the last 4 years have kind of been my crash course on Parkinson's, and I've learned so much. And it's just, yeah, like I said, it's very humbling, to say the least.
And my dream with this show or anything I do with awareness is really just to reach one person. And if we could reach one person even a day, we've changed the world, and you've already, you know, done that. So I really appreciate that. And I hope today we obviously get more than one person, but I would just think that the biggest point here is that you don't want anyone to feel alone. I also felt alone as a caregiver, and my mother surprisingly never met somebody in 15 years who had Parkinson's, and she was also young in her 69, and she passed on 1/1/2020. So there's a world out there that we need to reach so we can come closer to a cure. I had to also,
Absolutely.
but I think you wanted to say a few words, Jamie.
Yeah, as far as the question goes of, you know, reaching people and how do you do that? You know, ultimately, I don't know the best way to do that, but I think always the best way to reach anybody is through honesty and vulnerability. That's what's helped me. It can be difficult, but I think when people see something that they can relate to, then you know, there's a lot out there on Parkinson's, on just what is the clinical what happens clinically, what happens when you talk with doctors and that kind of stuff. You can educate yourself. You can get real deep into all of the, all of what happens and that's all out there. But I think the thing that really connects and that really makes somebody say, hey, you know what, that resonated with me. I want to share this, or I think other people should see this, is when no matter what it is, if it's Parkinson's in this case, that the honesty, that the vulnerability, and that the connection of a family that's going through this together is going to reach more people. So for me, it's always, always come back to honesty, vulnerability, and try to show that. You had mentioned a little bit about like, what people really see is shocking. And I agree, it can be very shocking. And there's some video and pictures that we have that would be, I guess considered shocking. For me, it's not so much, I mean, certainly if you see something shocking, that, you're gonna watch it and you may get some people to look at it just because it's shocking. But I think more than the other word that I would use instead of what we're going to do, because we'll show some of those difficult parts, is that there's a difficulty there that when people see that and it's done in the right way, not just for a shock value to, get somebody's attention, but when it's there to connect that we're all human, that we're all going to go through different things, that we all have struggles, that we all have difficult times, that none of us are going to live forever. And what we've found is even some of the filmmakers that we've been in touch with, cameramen, sound guys and things like that, have mentioned that they've had family members that have passed from cancer or from, ALS or something like that, where the story that we're talking about in the interviews and the way that we're going through this with the family connects to their story as well. And so not only is it just Parkinson's, but how do we go through this and be human? I always think there's a multiple Brene Brown quotes that I really liked. And I was reading Brene Brown, Daring Greatly, as I was starting this documentary. It was kind of the real push to actually call Mike and say, hey, let's do this. And a couple of the quotes that she said one of them was, we love seeing raw truth and openness in other people, but we're afraid to let them see it in us. We're afraid that our truth isn't enough, that what we have to offer isn't enough without the bells and whistles, without editing and impressing. Another one is, vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weaknesses. And whatever I'm going through is to just try to bring this back to what I think the same thing that you said, George, which is I hadn't seen any of this other than I knew that, Michael J. Fox had it, and I knew that Muhammad Ali had it. And I saw some shaking and some tremors. So when my dad was diagnosed, all I really knew was, okay, there's going to be shaking, but what I have no idea besides that. I had no idea all of this stuff would happen and that it's a part of it. And I think with Parkinson's, you're not going to know it until it connects to you, which I guess is a kind of a nice thing if you don't have to deal with that. I mean, I'd prefer not to have all the knowledge that I have now about it, of course, but our goal is to show that in a way that humanizes it, that connects us. And then for those who have not seen Parkinson's, and there's kind of this wall, people go through something and then they get real bad and then everything kind of goes quiet. And then you don't see anymore, and that person just goes off and then they die quietly like that, which is fine. There's not everybody wants to see that, but to see what goes through that and how you deal with that as a family, I think will encourage people, more than anything.
Yeah, one struggle I had was told by 15, again, I don't blame the doctors because, it's not their fault, it's a disease, but that you don't die of Parkinson's, you die with it. You know how many times I've heard that? But meanwhile, in our case, and every journey is different, it wasn't true. Mother didn't have any other medical issues. So obviously it might have been a complication of medicine or something, but that was the only reason why she passed. So it's, you're, again, unfortunately, and we sent our love 100 million times to you. It just happened recently. We in a few months or years, I'd love to have a conversation, could be off here, but about what it's like to be someone who lost a loved one due to Parkinson's. I'm actually writing a book now on it because I'm not diagnosed currently. I'm no longer a caregiver of someone alive, but I feel there's about 20, 30, 40 million people like us who've lost a loved one due to Parkinson, but in a way the door is kind of closed for our advocacy. And that's why I love what you're doing. And I won't stop because we're kind of kicking the doors open and saying, but wait, our loved ones still have a voice and they still matter. Because I've had some stories that, again, we don't have the time for today that kind of made me sad a little bit that, almost felt like I wasn't wanted to still speak out and speak up, which is why, again, grateful for all the listeners and all the guests that we've had because it's just, got to keep this going till there's a cure in a memory of our loved ones. And I loved all your quotes. So I figured I'll throw one in. My
Yeah.
mom, yeah, but this is, I don't know why Tony Robbins, but I thought of you because when you were running with your dad, and it's just, there's times where I want to give up too. You don't, but if you can't, you must. And if you must, you can. So it's almost in a way like never give up, like you said, but you actually didn't just say it, you did it, and you're still doing it today. So both of you just inspire me, and I guarantee so many throughout the world. What I wanted to do now is share a little of the magic. And I told before we started how amazing your background is for some and your technology there. But I love the website. So if everyone can please go to run4ben.com. I'm going to add this to the notes so everyone can literally just click on it. I was watching it throughout many days because it's just motivating and it shows a beautiful story as you're both depicting in the upcoming I don't know about the trailer, but everyone here, you can see a lot more again in depth about your journey, some of the beautiful pictures and moments that still live on forever. And maybe you can subscribe, which I have. I like doing it too live. So look at that, everyone. 1 second here, boom, that's it. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about, your dad and what he felt, even sitting here crossing the line, because that's something that, movie will show, but better than anyone. Maybe that's a really a beautiful experience. Maybe you can tell us. And as you do that, I also am going to share your Instagram so everyone can also join your Facebook, which I'm also going to add in the show notes. And finally, your YouTube, which I hope you're still active on, but it's at 3 years. But I always say every guest, this has to say 1 million. And until then, I won't stop. It's a threat too. So maybe you could, again, touch a little bit about how your dad thought during the runs and what he thought of everything.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So the first three ended up running 3 marathons without him, and then the last one with him. So um, the I'll just go right to 2023 where I did run with my dad, and that was the reason is he got to a place where he was pretty much bedridden, and the goal was to move him from a position where he was kind of inside all the time, and I felt like he wasn't really getting a chance to get outside and be part of life. Everything started kind of closing down a little bit for him. So the goal was, instead of just running for him, I knew about the Hoyt running chairs, and I had seen that from Dick and Rick Hoyt long time ago when we were kids. And so I started researching those chairs, and then did a funding for that. And within a week, we had enough money to purchase that chair, which was over $5,000, but people really jumped in and helped out with that. So that's us training. That picture right there is actually in Kensington Park. It was a beautiful park, and we used to see sandhill cranes all the time when we were running. So really the goal was to get us outside together, and that's what it did. And then during the marathon, what's really funny is if you can see when I'm pushing that chair, I'm behind my dad. So most of my view of my dad is, you know, the top of his head a little bit and whatever else is going on around him. So that was a very interesting run. My dad had a catheter. We actually had to stop to do a catheter stop. There's the Sandhill cranes. We had we had to stop for medicine and things like that. So it was a real interesting marathon compared to the other three. But how he felt was actually a question that I had the whole time, because he said that things were going well and he was enjoying it. But until I saw that picture of us crossing the finish line, that's when I really knew exactly how my dad felt. And he is, we're coming around the corner right there in Detroit. So as we're coming into the finish line, and we're coming up there, we take a turn around and we're coming down the street. And that Hoyt chair, you can kind of move it back and forth because most of the weight's on the back. So we tip up and do kind of a wheelie to celebrate. And that's where my dad, like, really, the crowds are really heavy right there, and and the crowds are cheering. And you can see my dad in a way that I hadn't seen him in so many years, which was fully engaged, like super excited, like taking in the whole crowd cheering and going across the marathon. And he would make these jokes all the time of, you know, well, I'm not running the marathon. I just sit there. Jamin's running it. And I was like, Dad, no, we're running it together, you know. And seeing that final thing where he's cheering and, you know, our arms are up in the air, it's that picture will be burned in my mind forever, is just how much joy we had. And it wasn't, that was one day, but the training for that really is what, you know, that, like, this picture right here is times where he was holding the camera right there. So he would hold the camera, and because of his Parkinson, oftentimes it would like start drooping over, and hey Dad, we got to hold it right like this, and we'd find a way to, you know, to lock it in. But these times we would talk, and then after this we would typically like go by Culver's and sit in the car, and like I would help him, because if you gave him a burger, basically, you know, because of Parkinson's, he wasn't aware, and he would just smash the burger and grab it and just like squish it, which it's funny to laugh about that stuff, because we would both laugh about it, because I was like, Dad, you can't, I got to hold the burger for you. But those times are the times now I miss more than anything else, are those times of just like, they'd even be frustrating, to be quite honest, like in Culver's, and like he's smashing the burger and there's ketchup going everywhere. And like, I'm like, Dad, you know, you can't, give me a second. I got to have a bite of my burger. And he's like trying to drink his shake. And I'm just, even his shake cup, like those plastic cups from Culver's, he's like squishing it. And I'm like, Dad, it's starting to spill out, you know? So it's not only just that finishing line, but you know what it was getting there was just amazing. Obviously, I could go on about that for a little while.
I love it, and I do want to say how beautiful Mike's work and your photography is. Everything I see looks like a movie, and it's just inspiring. And one thing that you said, I think we lost that I wanted to.
So my my chocolate lab is, every time I get on a
We're
work
uh,
on
we're
everything.
this is an animal friendly show, so they're all welcome. But one thing you did say again, it again mirrors a lot of what I believe. And, you know, although Parkinson's is horrible at times and can take our loved ones, it can never take those memories. You know, I have one with my mother. It's the cover of our book, and me and my mother dancing at my wedding. And that was one of my memories of my life that I'll never forget. And she was all dressed up beautiful, smiling, laughing. She forced me as a child to grow up with Michael Bolton and Barry Manilow music. And now I love them. Barry Manilow was playing "I Am Your Son," and those 2 3 minutes, Parkinson didn't exist and it didn't matter. And even though she's no longer with us, just like your story with your beautiful, amazing father, we'll never forget. And Parkinson's cannot take that from us. So really amazing and grateful you share that with us. And it means the world to me and our listeners too. And I wanted to please again everyone, if you go to the main website, Run4Ben, you can click on donate. And this is, again, somewhere in some way you can also help support Run4Ben, the documentary, and all that these two amazing individuals do. Wanted to now shift a little to the, I always say it's fun, but I mean, the whole show has been really exciting and so excited to be able to be with both of you. Have a few other questions. Some of them you kind of already described, but can you list 3 words that describe who you are? And I guess we could kind of rotate the questions if that's easier as we wrap up shortly. Does anyone want to jump in? It's all you. 3 words.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So what's the question?
Sure. Can you list 3 words that describe who you are?
Oh boy. Oof. Um,
One response. Oh boy, and gosh.
busy. Busy is a word. Busy. And I will say specific to the experience on Run for Ben, and I've said it a couple times already. Humble. And also grateful to have this experience that I'm still having with Jamin and his family and making this film. And I'm very excited to share it. And as I know Jamin is as well. So those are my 3 words.
I appreciate it. And
Yeah.
this one's for Jamin. This is not obviously always easy, and the last few weeks have been tough, I know, for you and the family. I like for a moment to bring out those behind the scenes who aren't the face like many of us are, and thank and send love and support to them. But I was wondering who helps you during times of struggle, especially now. Obviously, you can reach out to me 24/7, but I'm not there. So just want to send a love and thanks to the people in your life behind the scenes. But if you could, I was just curious for the listeners who helps you during times of struggle.
Yeah, certainly. I'd be happy to talk about that. I mean, first of all, is family. I think my wife, Britta, and then my mom, and my brother Kyle. We were all there when my dad passed. We all, we're end of life caregivers as well, which was hospice caregivers at the end. And we went through a lot together and leaned on each other a ton. To have that family who could pick that up was amazing. The other real big one for me is, I think it was in a picture there that you had scrolled through, but I've been sober for a little over 5.5 years now. So, I've have friends who are sober that I reach out to when things are difficult, when, it can even be tough when all the family's dealing with it or your family's dealing with it. You got to talk outside the family. So having people who support and understand that I'm sober, and my sobriety allowed me to be present with my dad and to be present through those difficult times and through the really good times. And that is a huge reason that I did the documentary and things like that too, was my sobriety. So being able to reach out friends who support me, was very, very big. In this. And then the last one that I'll mention, and there's a few different people I could mention, but the Kirk Gibson Foundation, there's a few different members. Michelle, who was the executive director there, she's not there anymore, but I received calls from Kirk Gibson himself when I was out on different runs and marathons. His son Cam, Steve Anir, who's all over there, as well as Kirk's wife. They've all been incredibly supportive, and that's been wonderful to have them, as well as some people from Michigan Parkinson's Foundation and Drive Toward a Cure. So Deb Pollock is Drive Toward a Cure. I'm pretty sure she's been on here and talked with you because I've talked with her about that. But she's been huge in helping out with the documentary. But more than that, they've all had family members who have had Parkinson's and have passed from Parkinson's. So they're the first ones to contact me and to reach out. And when my dad did pass, but also when he was alive and we were going through a lot of stuff, they knew what I was going through and would help out with that. So I'm sure I probably left some people out of that. I don't mean to, but those are some of the first names that come to mind.
Thanks. And again, we send our love and support to all of them for supporting you. It means a lot. We need you out there fighting and being able to kind of concentrate on this incredible journey. And for Mike, just curious in your line of work, what drives and motivates you? Because taking a topic, again, like Parkinson's, which I think should be all over the world in media. Lately, it has been because of bigger celebrities now, with Ryan Reynolds talking about his father's battle with hallucinations
Mhm.
and delusions, which many didn't speak about. Then, and we've spoken to Brett Favre, luckily, and Bernie Kosar has
Yeah.
been on our show. And my background is I'm an attorney, a police officer, and I have a PhD in criminal justice. So I've seen a lot of things that need to be brought to their attention too. But I'm wondering, what drove you to want to concentrate on Parkinson's disease? And another question, which we might have to come on another time, is how do we get more media attention for things like this documentary, but also a lot more awareness for Parkinson's in the media world?
Well, it's specific to the documentary, my answer is simple. It was to help my friend, and to be able to do that, and also to be able to be creative in a way, and do something that is kind of above and beyond. I work in the industry, and I do a lot of stuff that is just, television shows and films, and those are all fiction, and they're make believe and all that stuff. So the unique thing about Run for Ben for me in my history and filmography is that this was the first kind of real thing that I was doing that has real stakes and real impact, and it's something I didn't know about. So I knew immediately there was a need to shine a light on it, just for me, just so I could learn, and become a little less ignorant and a little more, kind of educated, and also to try to make it something that is easily accessible for people. And Jamin touched on this, is like not only for people with Parkinson's, but other people who care for loved ones who have, issues in their lives. There's a lot to be said for those people who have Parkinson's and other things, but caregivers who directly take care of family members who do that. And it's a hard job. It's a struggle. And I think giving them some, spotlight to explain their story is something I'm very excited to show people, to kind of, like, because I don't think anybody's thinking of that. I think it's, as you mentioned, people do focus on the celebrity of it because that's easily digestible. But to kind of bring it down to a place where we can kind of learn, it's a pebble in a pond where the ripples kind of, it extends beyond just that individual, and just to kind of really show what the gravity and weight of Parkinson's is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Jamin, if you could tell us who your hero and inspiration is. I think I know the answer.
Yeah, I mean, my mom was just talking about this in the interviews that we're doing for the documentary today, and I think her exact quote was, if she's told friends that if I could have jumped into my dad's skin and just been him, then I would have. I didn't
Funny.
know, I didn't know that it was, that apparent, but certainly my dad was something that I looked up to immensely. Um, and that went from, that changed too as I got older, from the hero, looking up to my dad, to becoming more of a friend with my dad, to a best friend. And then that's one thing we'll focus on too in the documentary, is that also changed when I became, more of a caregiver and helping him out and picking him up, and helping him to shower and do these things. So the roles really kind of reversed and switched. And so we've been through it all. But yeah, the short answer would be yeah, my dad. He's a good guy.
Yeah, I feel like we know each other for 100 years, because a lot of the things you're literally saying. Just today, I posted a video. I did a show somewhere and said, if I could have taken Parkinson's and had it and not had my mother go through it, I would have. And you literally just said the same thing. So it's kind of eerie, but important. So thanks. And then this kind of question, we're going to pretend we don't have a documentary coming out, but we do. So everyone, please go to Run for Ben, go to the documentary, support them. But this
Please, please.
yeah, this is a fun question. I know who you would hire, Jamin, for your producer and your editor and all the beautiful filmmaking. But if you were asked to write a movie or a script for a movie about your life story, what would you call it, and who would play your role as an actor?
Oh, we're doing the fun questions, huh? Oh,
And then
shoot.
we go through the tough ones, the sad, and then we hit you with the fun, and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who would I have to write it? And I would probably go with Coen Brothers. I think they're my all-time favorite, and they know how to tell a story about a normal, like everyday person going through, difficult circumstances, and they also have a ton of fun with it. And there's no way to not sound like an asshole picking picking who you want to play you.
I want to hear because I'll tell you who some of the people have already taken. You can't take George Clooney or Brad Pitt for some reason.
Okay, yeah, I won't do that. I'll say I've gotten it every once in a while. I'll go with Paul Rudd. I think he's
And
entertaining and handsome, so we'll go with that.
nice. I think you're probably taller though. I don't know. We never met. I
So
appreciate it.
Coen Brothers and Paul Rudd, that'd be a good pairing, I think.
I really wanted to thank you both. I believe we're all family together, and even after today, even more closer. And I love what you're both doing, and I'm going to definitely share it throughout the world because I think it's a message that needs to be out there, even though it's currently going to be, but it has to be around the world, not just in the US. So as we wrap up, if you could leave the Parkinson's community today with some words of encouragement, what would they be?
From what I've learned over the last 4 years, keep moving, and I mean that physically because they say that is something, it's basically the main thing people say that can kind of offset things a little bit, but even emotionally, keep moving. It can be very isolating and scary, and just keep going. If you can't do anything wrong if you just keep at it and doing the best and advocate for yourself or whomever you're taking care of. And that's the easiest thing I could say.
Thank you.
Yeah, biggest thing I would say is you're not alone. And as difficult as it may be, I highly encourage people to reach out and to find some help and just to talk with somebody about what's going on. It can be very, very intimidating at the start, especially, if you're like myself, my family, who did not know much about Parkinson's at all. Fear can make us isolate and feel alone. But when you reach out, what you find is, and I found this in other places other than Parkinson's as well, when you reach out and when you ask for help, number one, you'll receive that from other people and you'll receive support. But the other big thing that I think what it does is it allows other people to open up and to find help as well. So in us reaching out, we encourage other people and allow other people to open up. So the documentary is just a bigger part of opening up and hopefully encouraging other people to be able to open up themselves. And when we do that, you talked about, impacting other people. When we start to do that and open up with, kind hearts and loving hearts, then that spreads, um, faster than just, knowledge or whatever else. Love spreads a lot faster. So.
Well, I really appreciate both of you coming on today, and I do hope for many more conversations in the future. I don't think that I always say when the lights, camera, and the paparazzi leave today after the show that this
Mhm.
conversation cannot end because we still don't have a cure, and we still have to fight in memory of both of our loved ones and all of you listening too, until there is a cure at everyone's doorstep. So I have a little message for both of you and everyone listening. We love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone, as the beautiful guest today mentioned too. I, along both of your side, will advocate for all of you listening, and together I feel our voices are so much stronger. And I always end with saying I'm just getting started, because even though I'm not, it's been unfortunately shocking how many years. It's been 5 now, I think. But every time I want to give up, or I've had 4 back surgeries, or I see you out there doing something. I just ran in a little teeny turkey trot, which is nothing really, but when I
That's
see
all.
your, yeah, I was going to die
Good
during,
job.
and I didn't give up because honestly, I thought of you. I thought of your father. I thought of all of you out there. never giving up. And even though I got to the line, and I likely won't do this ever next year, but I really do think of you and our friendship and all that you do, Mike, for the Parkinson's communities. You don't even understand. Won't get sad, emotional, which I am, but we need more of this. We need more of both of you in the world. I just hope that the next George and Jamin and Mike, we find a cure, soon. So our loved ones are still there, because as you know, it's going to be tough the holidays. It's for me, and I know for your family, but as long as we keep a seat for them and never let them be forgotten, I think we're going to keep fighting together. So I want to thank both of you and everyone listening too
Thank you.
for your time. It means more than the world. Words alone will never describe that. This show is not for money. I don't accept money. If you send it, I'm going to send it to these gentlemen for the movie, and they don't want it either, except to help fund the movie. And I
There
just,
you go.
I want everyone to know that you're not alone, and that I know I won't stop fighting until there's a cure at everyone's doorsteps around the world. And I know you two also will do the same. So thank you for coming on the show. Just meant the world to us all.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for having us.
Thank you too, Mike, and thanks everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Q&A with Sharon's son, George. Please share this. We need to get the word out. We need to also go right to run4ben.com, support the documentary so we can get it out there in the world. And again, it's hard to end these shows because, again, the mission still continues, the fight continues, and when we shut this, we're going to share it, but we need everyone out there to make sure the world is aware of your beautiful, incredible father's legacy, and one that we're going to dedicate again the show to today. So thank you all. Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned. There's so much more to come. I'm just grateful you're along for the ride. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.